Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while. This feels really weird to be back filming. I haven't done any sort of a vlog or any sort of YouTube video in literally like months. The last video I uploaded was 5 months ago, and even at that it was probably filmed like 6 months ago. So it's been a while, so please do excuse me if I'm like out of practice. I just wanted to have a bit of a catch up. Obviously this is going to be a vlog, but I wanted to have a bit of a catch up before I just got back into it normally. So I said while I was putting on my makeup today, I might as well chat to you and fill you in on what's been going on. The last thing you would have seen from me was probably like some homeware haul videos, and we had obviously just moved into our new house. I don't even know where to start, but also I'm looking in my mirror here just so you know. I don't really know where to start. I feel like this year for me has been very different than what I expected this year to be. I had a very specific idea of what this year was going to be and what it was going to look like. And it was for about like 8 weeks. And then I got like serious burnout. I was so incredibly exhausted, which I didn't expect, because I kind of thought, like everyone says that, you know, I've been trying to kind of like think about how I'm going to talk about this, because it obviously is very personal and I want to like respect my own privacy. But again, I feel like it's something that so many young girls or so many young women go through, that I kind of want to just like throw my 2 cents in and kind of just share my experience. So I'd been going to doctors since probably like my second year in college. So I would have probably been 19. I'm now 27, about to be 28. So since I was about 19, I just would always get extremely tired, like really tired. Like not the kind of tiredness that like sleep can fix, just like, I can't even explain to you the levels of exhaustion that I would feel after only doing something small, or even sometimes after not doing anything. I could wake up that way. And I knew it wasn't right. So I had gone to doctors, I had gone to like 2 doctors in college, and they were just kind of like, oh, you know, have you put on weight recently? And like most people when they go to college, the answer was yes, I have put on weight recently. And if you can hear noise, it's just because it's raining outside. They would always just kind of like blame any kind of like feeling lethargic. They would always blame it on the fact that I had recently put on weight, but I hadn't put on that much weight. Like when we're talking about putting on weight, I probably put on like 5 or 6 pounds. Like it wasn't like an enormous amount that would, like, it was a normal amount to like fluctuate with, you know. Cut to like the first summer of like first year of college into second year, and I collapsed at work. And I was taken to the hospital, and I had like I had like pains and stuff like that. But like the second that the pain went, and I said to the doctor, oh, you know, like the pills you've given me like are fine, like I'm not in pain anymore, they just sent me home. There was no follow-up, there was nothing done about it. And at the time I was kind of like, oh well, I do feel better, so it must be okay. And like they had done a blood test and they had done like x-rays and stuff like that, and they never found anything wrong. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know, maybe I was just like overexerting myself or something. So anyways, took a little bit better care of myself and didn't really think too much about it again, until maybe like a year or 2 later, when this real kind of intense exhaustion started to happen to me. At the same time, my mental health wasn't in the best of places, so I did go to the doctor again. This time though, I went to a doctor off campus, because I don't know, like I just wasn't happy with the service I was getting on campus. So I went to like a private doctor, and again, over the course of about 3 years, I seen 3 different doctors, and all 3 of them did blood tests, and they kept telling me nothing was wrong, that like my vitamins were all okay, my hormones were all okay, everything was grand, and that it's probably because I had put on weight. Now at that point, I probably had put on a good bit of weight. I'd probably put on maybe about 2.5 stone at that point. So I was like, okay, that probably is the reason that I'm fine, like my body's adjusting to this new weight. And that's the way it was kind of phrased to me, is that like there's nothing coming up in the blood, so it must be the weight, because that's the only thing that's really changed. And I was like, okay, fair enough. And I wasn't really like that at the time. Like obviously I was very gutted, because for me growing up, like if you're in and around my age and you grew up kind of the same time as me, then like you will know that like in the magazines that we used to grow up with and stuff like that, like, you know, it wasn't like it is today with like body positivity and stuff. Like, God forbid you put on a small bit of weight, you were like absolutely like shamed in magazines and newspapers. Like, I remember this one magazine cover, I think it was on like US Weekly or something, but like it was discussed on like so many different TV shows at the time, and it was like all over like every magazine. It was these pictures of Jessica Simpson, who was wearing like mom jeans, and she was probably, I don't know, maybe a size 14 or a size 16, and the way in which people spoke about her was absolutely horrendous. Like, she looks absolutely beautiful, and all of these people were talking about like how much weight she had put on, how different she looked, and all this kind of thing, and everything was always like so negative. So, and that was only one example. I feel like these examples came up all the time. And it was just, if you grew up how I grew up, you'd understand where I'm coming from, and you'll understand all the like cultural references. But with that, I suppose you're kind of when I was growing up, it was kind of like if you put on weight, that was seen as like the worst thing in the world. Like, oh my God, you know, you've put on weight, you look heavier, blah, 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 blah. It was seen as like a real like failure in life to put on weight. And as much as weight never bothered me on anyone else, if it was on me, it obviously did. So when you had a doctor telling you that like, well, you feel really bad because you've put on weight, and the way in which they had those conversations was always in such a negative way that it really made me feel shit about myself. And I remember like leaving those appointments just being so incredibly upset, and like, you know, trying to be really, really healthy for a couple of weeks, and like it never really worked because it just didn't. That's a whole other story. But anyways, I digress. This is actually a way longer conversation. Maybe I'll just make this its own video. Cut to then like 2018, I went back to the doctor again, and I was like, look, this just isn't working. Again, they did bloods, nothing happened. They were just like, look, the only thing we can recommend is for you to try and lose a bit of weight and see if that will make a difference. I was like, okay, fine. So then anyways, I had kind of just lost faith in the doctors, to be quite honest. And I was like, okay, like they're not giving me any answers. And like all of the conversations were really condescending. So I was like, I'm just not going back. Then anyways, I was going to go back in 2020 because I was like, do you know what? No, like there's something wrong here. Not only was I getting these really long bouts of exhaustion, like I knew that I always just felt like there was something wrong with one of my hormones. Something wasn't in sync. And I was going to go back in 2020, but of course then pandemic hit, and the doctors were only seeing you if it was like serious or urgent or something to do with COVID. So obviously I didn't go to the doctor then for 2020 or 2021. And then in March of this year, when I had that really like extended period of exhaustion again, I was just like, do you know what? No, something is wrong. I know there's something wrong. So I went back to the doctors this year, and I went in guns blazing. And I was like, look, I'm not gonna have you sit here and tell me that I feel the way I feel because of my weight. I said, this has been an issue even since I was teeny tiny and had absolutely no excess weight on me whatsoever. I was like, I am too young. I'm only 27. I'm too young for weight to be having an effect on me at this point in my life. And for the first time, the doctor was like, yeah, she was like, I don't think any of your issues are down to your weight. She was like, of course, for like having a healthy life, everyone needs to like move well or eat well and move more. But she was like, I don't think the issues you're having are down to your weight. She was like, but she was like, that doesn't mean that I necessarily have an answer for you. We're going to do blood tests. We'll do a check on your hormones. I'll do as much as I can do. But for something with energy, she was like, we don't just have a test for that. We don't have a test for energy. And I was like, okay, fine. So she went off, she did all the tests that I needed done, and it came back that I was deficient in a load of different things that should have been caught way like years ago. I was fuming. Because I was like, are you joking me? I've been deficient in, I'm not going to go into like what I'm deficient in. I was deficient in a load of different things, and they're all related to energy, and they would all really affect you, and the levels that I had were actually dangerously low. And only for I had gone in there like guns blazing and she had done the full test. So one thing I didn't understand was when I was saying to the doctors, I want you to test absolutely everything, they were saying to me, yeah, no problem, but they weren't, because I was like, well, if this was my results now in 2022, what were they in 2018 and what were they in 2015? And she couldn't tell me because they hadn't done the right tests. They had done like a general blood test, but they hadn't like looked into like specific things, because if your doctor doesn't request it to be like a full like look at things and request certain things, then it's just a very general overview of your bloods. And I was fuming. Of course I was. I said to her, I was like, I have had the exact same symptoms for 8 years. I've come in and told the exact same thing to you as I have to every other doctor for the last 8 years, and none of them have done their jobs correctly, and as a result I have suffered for 8 years. So I was fuming. And not only was I fuming, I was so upset because I was like, I've spent the majority of my 20s absolutely exhausted, and I went for help and I didn't get it. So I was raging. Also, along with that, one of my hormones is abnormal, has abnormal levels. So I'm currently still actually getting that looked into. And I've been referred on to like a hormone specialist, which I'm really excited to go and see, because I feel like she might be able to give me some real proper answers. There's also other things that had come up when she had done different tests and stuff, and I'm not going to talk about them because they are just quite personal, but it basically was, how do I say this without saying it? It was a very scary summer for me, and it was something that I have only told my immediate family and like my very, very, very close friends. And without being like super dramatic, it was a very scary time, and I'm really happy that in that respect everything ended up being okay, thank God. But it was very intense and it was really scary, and it was a lot this summer. It was a lot. So anyways, we're now at a point whereby I'm hopefully going to go see a hormone specialist and she's going to fix my life. Fingers crossed. I will say that with the deficiencies and stuff, the doctor gave me like prescriptions, and I was able to get like shots of different things and get all the like bits and pieces that I needed, and my energy is way better now, and I finally feel normal. Like I literally remember saying to James, like maybe a week or two after I started getting the treatment, and I was like, is this how people in their 20s actually feel? I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is insane, because it was really like, some days I was so exhausted I couldn't even lift my head off the pillow. Like it was a lot. But I'm pleased to say that I'm feeling much better. But I'm still relatively like only processing all of it. And the only reason I'm really sharing this is because I know that this, from speaking to like, actually over the summer I was with some of my friends, and I was like telling them the whole situation with me, and then they were like telling me all their different like bits and pieces that they've had with the doctors, and like it's a very normal conversation for me to have with my friends about like all like my friends in different like friend groups about like our health and stuff like that. And it wasn't until afterwards, because James was with us at that time, and James wouldn't normally be there like when I'm with my friends in that necessarily in that situation, because normally like I don't know, if I was having like girl chats or whatever, he wouldn't really be there, but he was, because he's friends with all of those girls as well. And so he said to me afterwards, he was like, that was fucking harrowing to know that like literally every single woman around that table had pretty much the same experience, whereby there's something not right with your hormones, there's something not right with your health, and the doctors like blame it on something like your weight, or they are like, oh sure, look, track it for a few months, see how you get on, if nothing really major happens then it's probably okay, or you know, they always blame it back to like the menstrual cycle but don't give you actually any answers. And he was like, it's actually so horrendous how women are treated in like our health system. And I was like, yeah. And it wasn't really until he had like seen it and we had a discussion afterwards, it actually is so incredibly bad how women are treated in the healthcare system, and how a lot of our symptoms just are like, oh sure, where you do your period, that's probably it, you know. And I just really feel like you need to have the right doctor that does the right tests, and sometimes like you nearly need to know what's wrong with you going in. Anyways, I digress. I could have a whole conversation about this and I don't really want to but I just kind of wanted to explain kind of like why, as a result, I like pulled back from everything. I've pulled back from YouTube, obviously. I pulled back from Instagram. I pulled back everywhere across my life. I just felt like I was just really, really overwhelmed with everything because of all of those health bits and pieces going on. As well as that, then like trying to do stuff with the new house and even just get used to the new house, whatever. And obviously this year, I think I've already said it on YouTube, but I started a new job this year, so like that's taken a lot of getting used to as well. So it's just been a really busy year, and there's been a lot going on, and there's been a lot of plates spinning, and in conjunction with, you know, being busy, I also just kind of like stopped liking making content. I felt like the internet had just become a very like weird place, and I wasn't enjoying spending time on it as a like consumer of content or as somebody who makes content. And I was like, why are you doing this to yourself here? And like nobody, literally, like it always goes back to like something that Darren Garrahy said, I heard her say like years ago, is like nobody gives a fuck about you. And like not in a rude way towards myself or anything, but like nobody cares. Nobody would care if I didn't upload every Thursday evening at 8 o'clock. Like nobody actually cares. So I just took a little bit of a break, and what ended up being kind of like, you know, a week or 2 weeks or a month break ended up literally being like 6 months. But to be honest with you, I feel like I really needed that. And I feel like now I can come back and be in a much better place. Like I also feel like the internet has changed so much. Like I myself don't really spend that much time on the internet, and I think that that's just because I have so much going on that like I just don't really spend that much time on the internet anymore. Where I do spend time is on TikTok. I love TikTok. Like I'm obsessed with TikTok. I rarely go on Instagram anymore. I'd say I probably do go on maybe once a day, sometimes maybe once every 2 days. And I honestly spend no longer than, I would say, 15 minutes on the app. Because I just find it so boring. I just honestly find it so incredibly boring. I feel like most of the content creators that I've watched for years and that I like love their content, most of them have kind of stopped. Like they've just kind of stopped. And as well as that, then I just feel like all the content is the same. And I don't know whether it's because on TikTok you're used to seeing so many different things constantly. Like 1 minute you're looking at like a funny cute baby video, and then you're looking at like somebody falling over, and then you're looking at like, I don't know, some sort of a skit. I don't know, like, you know, like on TikTok everything's just so different. Everything up every single time you swipe, you have no idea what you're gonna get. Whereas on Instagram it's so curated that you absolutely know what you're gonna get. And it might be like a little bit different depending on the person's perspective or like, you know, their style or whatever, but like mostly it is the exact same stuff over and over and over again. And I just found myself getting bored of it. I got bored of making that content, and I got bored of watching it. And I still have a really like funny thing with Instagram. Like I just feel like ever since Facebook took over Instagram, they've just run the app into the ground. So I'm just not about it. But as well as that, I know I'm kind of putting like all these different things into the mix, but honestly they've all been there, and they've all been reasons as to why I've like stopped doing all of this. I have put on a lot of weight since the start of the pandemic up until like say now. I've put on a lot of weight, and it has really been one of those things that has really, really affected my confidence. And especially this year, I don't know what it is about this year, probably just because I have been the heaviest I've been like ever. It's really, really like took a hit at my confidence, and like, which is really strange for me because I'm usually really, really like positive about my body. I don't allow myself to talk negatively about my body. I'm usually really, really good about putting on weight or like losing weight, like however, whatever way that fluctuates. I can usually like always, it's never like a thing for me. But this year, for whatever reason, it's just been such a thing for me, and like most of the clothes in my wardrobe do not fit. Oh, I never actually said what was wrong with my hormone situation. So basically they told me that I have PCOS, which I always suspected, but it was just getting that confirmation of having PCOS. So PCOS is polycystic ovary syndrome. The doctors basically like were kind of like, in your bloods, apparently there's like 3 things that have to like show up in order for them to be like, yeah, you have PCOS. I only had like 2 of the things, and so they weren't like diagnosing me with it, but I knew that there was just something wrong. So I was like, I want to get an ultrasound, I want to get that whole situation looked at. So anyways, got my ultrasound, and she was able to then come back with a full report and be like, yeah, this girl has PCOS. So at least I know that now. And since finding out that I have PCOS, honest to God, it has just changed my life in the way I think about my body. It has changed how I even like like literally anytime like a video comes up on TikTok, or if I Google it or anything saying like symptoms of PCOS, I'm like, I have every single one of them, like every single one of them, to the point where I'm like, how did the doctors not cop onto this sooner? Like, but anyways, I digress. I'm just really, really happy that I've gotten some sort of answer with it, and that at least now I can kind of start to move on from it and just deal with it. But yeah, so I just really wasn't happy with like my body, and I wasn't happy showing my body. And obviously on this channel, one of the main things that I do is fashion hauls, and I just kind of really wasn't comfortable doing that. So I was kind of like, well, what do I do then? Like, I don't have a video to post if I don't do a try on haul, because I've always done a try on haul. So that was like a bit of a thing for me. And then my skin got really, really bad, and honestly has only started to clear up in the last like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, it was the worst that I honestly think it has ever been, like ever. It was so sore. I barely wore makeup over the summer because it was just so incredibly painful. And like, I still have, like, there's so much more scarring now than I had even from when I had acne as a teenager. And I don't know what like triggered it or what the story is. Again, I'm hoping this hormone woman will be able to like fix my life. But my skin was so incredibly bad that like I just didn't even want to come on camera. I didn't want to be on Instagram. I didn't want to be seen at all. And it's just taken me a good while to like get back to this place. And I'm still like, it's still a work in progress. And like, that's the thing, is that like, it probably always will be. I'm okay with that being the situation, you know. I've had time, I suppose, I've taken the time this year to like really look inward as to like why it matters that I have, like, why does it matter? Why does it make me self-conscious? And like, it sounds very like Gen Z of me to be like, oh, I've done a lot of like work on myself and whatever, but I truly have, and I feel much better for it. I feel like I've been out of the makeup game for so long now, but these lip duos by Sculpted by Amy are a lifesaver. This one it's called Bear, and I absolutely love it. It's just, actually, it comes up way warmer on camera than it does in real life, but I love it. It's really, really, really nice, and I just find these so handy to throw in my handbag. Ideal. I feel like as well, like I have no interest really in makeup that much anymore. It's so funny to me like how much my interests have changed in such a short amount of time. Like, I used to be so obsessed with makeup that like I literally had to put myself in a band for a whole year, and then all of a sudden like I couldn't tell you any of the new releases. Who did I see had a new release recently? I seen on Instagram somebody was releasing a new palette, and I was like, looks the same as every other palette I've seen for the last 5 years. And I just have absolutely like no desire to like even get new makeup or anything like that. It's so mad how your interests change so much in such a short amount of time, really. Everything that like, anytime I spend money now, it's always in the house. Like, all I can think about is like home decor or like the little projects we're doing and stuff like that. So like, I just feel like everything has changed so much in such a short amount of time. I'm sure I will get back to loving makeup again at some point, but for right now, not so much. I feel like this video was a lot longer than I had anticipating it to be. I suppose, just wanted to come on and explain why I hadn't been here for a while before I properly got back into videos again. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I know that it was not meant to be, this was not meant to be like a proper sit down discussion video, but I suppose it just kind of ended up being that way. But yeah, I don't really know what to promise. I don't really know what the like upload schedule is gonna look like over the next little while. I think I'm just going to upload some vlogs whenever I have them, and I do actually also have a load of videos in the start of the year. I filmed, I remember, like 5 or 6 in one weekend, and they're all about like how we saved for a house, like what the mortgage journey looked like. I have all of those videos that I just haven't edited. Like, I might put them up over the next month if there's interest there for them, because they're there, I just need to edit them. But I can upload them if there's interest for it, so just let me know in the comments. And I will leave it there because I have rambled for far too long. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you've gotten to this point in the video, thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe. This feels so weird. Anyways, I'm gonna go. I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.